we'll get started. If you guys can see that okay, I apologize that it's not like the best, but hi everybody, thanks for coming today. Jan Stankiewicz with NDSU Extension. I'm a community health and nutrition specialist as well as a tribal liaison. And I'm just going to share with you some of the work that we've done in farmers markets, so switching from farm to school to farmers markets, how we operate with SNAP authorization and acceptance, and then as well as double up programs, which are nutrition incentives that kind of match SNAP dollars at farmers markets. So we've gone through a few different things. I would also, just out of respect and responsibility, share NDSU's land acknowledgement. So we collectively acknowledge that we gather at NDSU, a land grant institution on the traditional lands of the Oceti-Sakowin, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Anishinaabe peoples, in addition to many diverse indigenous peoples still connected to these lands. We honor with gratitude Mother Earth and the indigenous peoples who have walked with Earth throughout generations. We will continue to learn how to live in unity with Mother Earth and build strong, mutually beneficial, trusting relationships with indigenous peoples of our region. And then also knowing that extension programs are open and all are welcome. So again, why? Going over a few things about SNAP at farmers markets, kind of figuring out your why, figuring out some of just general background information about SNAP and Double Up, how it works at farmers markets. Some experience that we've had recently with a cohort model around SNAP and Double Up, thinking a little bit about what success in those programs look like, what it feels like, and the end-all be-all question is like, how would we get there? So SNAP at farmers markets, it's the program formerly known as food stamps. It's a USDA program, goes to every state, every county in the nation, and it is dependent a lot on income guidelines, family member households, those sorts of things. And it operates much like a debit card. It actually looks like a debit card. The picture of it is right there. They swipe it at your POS machine, PIN code, all that stuff, just like a debit. And so the funds are then moved from that SNAP participant's SNAP account to the farmer's market account, and then so like your commercial bank account or whatever. There's no change given, there's no cash exchange, there's also no overdraw. So if a SNAP card is swiped and there's not sufficient funds on there, it will be a denied transaction, just like a debit card would, not like a credit card. There are eligibility requirements on SNAP purchases, just like at grocery stores. So the same foods that folks can buy with their SNAP card at a grocery store are the same foods that they can buy at a farmer's market. Most of the time, the discrepancy that comes in for farmers markets is if it's got sales tax on it, it will not be SNAP eligible. If there's no sales tax, it is most likely going to be eligible for a SNAP transaction. So what does SNAP look like in North Dakota at farmers markets? So in North Dakota, in any given month, folks can come on or come off of SNAP benefits each month. So approximately 24,000 residents or 24,000 households, sorry, that is a typo, 24,000 households in North Dakota utilize SNAP benefits, and that does equate to about $7 million per month. $7 million per month. Over the past couple of years, SNAP transactions at farmers markets has been increasing. In 2019, we had about $4,200 in SNAP transactions at farmers markets. That's total for like the whole farmers market growing season. In years before that, it was like right around the $4,000 to $5,000 mark for annually. 2020, we were up to $7,500. And in 2021, it was about $6,800, almost $6,900. I will note that in 2020, remember that there were those pandemic EBT distributions, so there were more SNAP dollars going to SNAP participants, and clearly some of those dollars went to farmers markets. The one thing I would always like to point out is, what would it look like if 1% of those SNAP dollars could be spent at farmers markets just during 3 months, July, August, and September? What would that look like? It would be $70,000 a month if it's at 1% local farmers. So just thinking about the opportunities, the what ifs, and again, like, where are we going and how do we get there? So then Double Up is another arm, another branch when it comes to SNAP authorization. Double Up is a dollar for dollar match on SNAP purchases at a farmer's market. That's where our focus is in North Dakota. Across the nation, there's Double Up programs in grocery stores and all over the place. Double Up can only be used on fruits and vegetables. So it won't be on honey or eggs or beef or bread or any other thing. And we do encourage that it's only used on fruits and vegetables that don't have added salt, fat, or sugar. So jams and jellies, pickles, those sorts of things wouldn't be Double Up eligible. The reason Double Up has such an impact is that these Double Up dollars aren't coming from a SNAP participant. The farmer isn't incurring the costs. It's literally a pocket of third-party dollars that is benefiting those SNAP participants and the local farmers. So if you think about those dollar for dollar matches on SNAP purchases, not only are you getting more fruits and veggies to SNAP participants, not only are you doubling the amount that the farmer is producing, but then those dollars are in your community, and you guys all know best how those dollars are spent and how they affect that local economy. And so then there's the last two bullets here is that $1 in Double Up can lead to up to $9 in increase in direct-to-consumer sales. Again, because of that circulation factor of those local economies with that third-party money coming in. And it increases fruits and vegetables consumption. The Double Up work that's gone across the nation for over the past decade or two it's always alluded to, increased access to fruits and veggies would then probably be leading to increased fruit and vegetable consumption. But they've just recently come out with information that actually says that yes, when folks are using their Double Up, it is actually leading to increased fruit and vegetable consumption. And the reason that I'm concerned about that, Extension's concerned about that, Public Health is concerned about that, is because folks who utilize SNAP benefits are typically at increased risk for chronic diseases, for other things that have a direct and profound impact on their health, which has a direct and profound impact on the community and all of those other indicators. So if individuals and families are increasing fruit and veggie consumption, again, only good things come from it. Healthier individuals, healthier families, healthier communities. So here is just a short history of nutrition incentives in North Dakota. The work that Extension has done has been since 2018. So we're 4 years into this. So we're still incredibly inexperienced and have so much to learn. But in 2018, we partnered with South Dakota State University Extension on a USDA grant for a pilot project to work with farmers markets in North Dakota and a couple of rural grocery stores in North Dakota. Lena's Fresh Farmers Market was our first pilot farmers market. They did an amazing job getting SNAP authorized, implementing Double Up programs, and then working with grocery stores. We worked with a grocery store in Belcourt and a grocery store in Fort Yates. And it was a pilot project. It was a true pilot project. There were so many things that we learned, especially about grocery, which is why one of the things we learned in that pilot project is that grocery retail is very difficult and cumbersome and convoluted, so we stuck with farmers markets. So all of the outcomes and all of the responses and feedback that we've gotten is like, it's all positive except for the fact that doing these sorts of programs, the systems that are set up, and especially for farmers markets, it does seem like it makes it harder, but the benefits usually outweigh those applications and paperwork and reporting. So moving into like 2020, 2021, we received another grant to work on the Double Up program and SNAP authorization with farmers markets. We were able to work with 6 farmers markets across the state. One was already SNAP authorized, but they had to switch their their fiscal agent. And so we had like 5 brand new applications for SNAP authorization, successful, implementing Double Up across the state. We developed a logo. And then also there are other farmers markets across the state who have done Double Up programs and just operate on their own. So they solicit their own funding, they figure out how to operate the program on their own. So it's technically still a Double Up program, but just not working like within the cohesive group. And that's totally fine and well. Like, it's not that all have to be participating or anything. So in the grant that we worked with recently, 2020, 2021, it was focused on, we intentionally wrote the grant to work with a small number of farmers markets to really walk closely with them through the process. So with our pilot project, we knew that folks needed lots of clarification, lots of specific questions that apply only to each individual market. So we thought about bringing just a cohort of small number of farmers markets together to go through it at the same time, being very clear up front that we aren't the experts. We have somewhat of an idea of what we're doing, but every time we've had a meeting, it's like, geez, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about that. And so then it's just lots of learning together throughout the entire process. So we had regular meetings, an agreed upon schedule that worked for everybody, and we had really good participation in those meetings. I think there were only a few meetings where 1 or 2 people couldn't come. So they were dedicated, they were in it. And I think one of the important things with that is that they were invested in it and they knew what they were going to get when they came to these meetings. It was virtual, so we could get everybody there at the same time. But they knew what they were going to get. They knew that their questions were going to get answered. They knew that the other folks were going to be showing up. So it was really meaningful. And so what Extension did was then provide technical assistance on everything involved with filling out the application, with figuring out what EBT equipment to use, like the terminal or the card reader, the phone system or whatever. We helped them out with a little bit of grant writing expertise. We talked through like a lot of logistics. It was a lot of like, what if this, or our market isn't set up for that, or what happens if this vendor doesn't, there were just lots of like individual specific questions that certainly there could be answers somewhere in a manual or a toolkit or online or something, but having somebody to talk through it with, and also in that cohort model, it was really nice. Don't have very many of the answers, but there's a lot of knowledge in that cohort where it's like, oh, maybe you could think of it this way, or maybe try this, or this is what we did and didn't work at all, those sorts of things. So there was just really lots of sharing that helped build the capacity of all of that technical assistance piece. We also provided resources and information, so we streamlined the accessible information. We streamlined the reporting that they would require. So NDSU has all of their rules and regulations for grants and providing contracts and those sorts of things. But we intentionally did it in a way so that those markets didn't have to spend a large amount of time reporting things that didn't really matter. And that was one of the things that we learned in the pilot project, is finding out what numbers we need, what numbers we don't need, how to make it easy on these markets, again, because we don't want to be another reason for folks not to be doing it. We also provided, through the grant, we were able to provide resources in the way of funding, so they could purchase EBT equipment that was needed, printers, chargers. They could also purchase, they had things for printing, so they printed their tokens and their coupons and all of those things, so they would be set up, and knowing that this capacity funding would end at a certain time, but they would have enough of what they need to be set up to continue the program beyond the grant period. So we were also very intentional about that. And I would say I have personal connections on there twice, probably because it's that important. So it really did matter to those farmers markets and the managers to have somebody to connect to, and also that cross connection, those cross networks that farmers markets like Stanley Farmers Market had probably never talked to anybody who operates the Twin Town Gardeners Market in Wahpeton. But now they have connections, and they've, know who to contact, with whatever kind of comes up. And also, I would like to mention that this project, it's kind of like farmers markets and SNAP and Double Up kind of sits in between like the Department of Ag, Extension, NDFMGA. It's kind of like it touches lots of different organizations and agencies, farms, but it doesn't like sit within or directly under any of those. And so it's trying to figure out ways to, again, make it easy for farmers markets to do this work, but to continue it, to build it so that customers are knowing about it, SNAP participants are knowing about it. And so creating systems, the data collection piece, like finding that SNAP transaction data, like I have to go to DHS, I have to ask for somebody to request a specific report to get those dollars. And so it's just thinking about things very differently so we can build, I want to say like build a better case for it, but it's just like having that information is really important and going to be helpful for the growth of these kinds of programs. So a market highlight, Spirit Lake Mobile Farmers Market, located in Fort Totten, but they do serve all of the districts on the reservation, so it does move around. And also I included the population on this just because, there were 2 markets that we worked with that were in Bismarck, but in Fort Totten there's 1,200 people that they're serving, 1,300 people that they're serving. So they aren't large communities, but they do, and again, it takes time for these sorts of programs to build. And so it's just knowing that people are on the ground, they're willing to make these kinds of things work. And it was just really impactful because they have prioritized this mobile farmers market because the reservation, transportation can be an issue. So coming to the separate districts to serve the people was really helpful. Another market highlight was the one up in Stanley. And this market is located just kind of in the center of Stanley, up in the northwest side of the state. And it was kind of interesting too, like our SNAP Ed educator up in Stanley, she just happened to like pick up the newspaper at her grandma's house one day, and there was a story about the Stanley farmers markets accepting SNAP and having Double Up just randomly in the newspaper, and she sent it to me, and it was like, look what happened. So people are talking about it. They're creating awareness without a lot of effort, honestly. And some of those smaller communities just kind of naturally gravitate towards that. So success is an interesting word. Sometimes success, you think like thousands of dollars of SNAP increase spent at the farmers markets in North Dakota. That was not the case for us. We had, but we did have, what we did focus on was a 60% increase in SNAP authorization at farmers markets. So we went from 10 markets to 16. And this was just in like less than a year, one farmer's market season. And also those 10 markets that had previously accepted SNAP, it's not like all 10 of those just became SNAP authorized in 2018. There's a few markets trickling in every year. So to have 6 in 1 year is significant. We also had much success, like I mentioned before, in the partnerships and connections. So the markets connected to each other, the markets and those market managers connecting to state agency folks that they might not have had a connection with before. And then certainly with Extension, with their local Extension agents in the counties, with statewide Extension. Lots of technical assistance, like I mentioned. The farmers receiving the hands-on technical assistance pieces to know that they can navigate those scary waters of federal applications now. Like they've got it under their belt, and maybe that leads to a small grant application or something, which then could lead to a USDA application or something. Who knows? We've got high hopes. And then awareness, like I said, the community knowing about it, newspapers picking those stories up, more awareness for those individual farmers markets. So if it's a newer market, maybe partnering with folks in the community, with county social services or something that is now an interested partner because the market is SNAP authorized. So it opens up doors for new partnerships within the community as well. And then also the economics piece, knowing that those additional dollars are in that community, staying in that community, benefiting those community members who maybe otherwise wouldn't have shopped at the farmer's market because their EBT card couldn't be used at the market. And when I have farmers or farmers markets calling my office asking me about what's this double up thing? What's this SNAP thing that I can do at the market? Like that is a total win, not just for the day, but for like the week and the month. And like it's a cool thing. So I would say that's a success. So how do we get there? How do we get anywhere with these kinds of programs at farmers markets? So if we've got 6 new markets in 21, we had 2 markets. We only had 2 markets with any SNAP transactions. And so that's why I focus, like that's not necessarily a success in many people's books to have $358 in SNAP transactions at 6 farmers markets in the first year. However, it does require time and patience. It does require new partners, new partnerships, and it does take effort to promote and create awareness about the programs. And so we don't have any expectations that our progress is just like going to continually shoot up in a straight line with perfect trajectory. But we do know that Extension is dedicated to continuing these kinds of programs, the partnerships that we've had in other state agencies. And so we can only see this program growing, and we are just really excited about what it might come. And so we don't have additional capacity funding at this point in time to bring on more markets to supply the EBT equipment and the printing and promotion and those sorts of things. But we will continue the technical assistance piece. We're thinking through what like another cohort model might look like without funding. And we will certainly be walking through this next growing season with those markets that were on board for the previous granting year, so they aren't just left high and dry with like, how do we keep going with this? So, as I mentioned, slow and steady wins the race. We aren't here to like make astronomical SNAP sales in the first couple of years. It's for, you know, significant change over the long term. And I guess I would also mention that farmers markets can become SNAP authorized at any time throughout the calendar year, throughout the growing season, if they've been in operation for 20 years, or if they're just newly starting. You can apply for SNAP authorization at any time. So I don't have any idea what time it is, but if you have questions, yes.
If this gets to be varying rules and regulations, will you be able I was someone taking SNAP, and if analysts are right about gas this summer, I'm not coming to my market. I'm too out of the way. There's no sidewalk. I'm completely inaccessible in that regard. So is there a way for it to be done in such a manner that it doesn't have to be that immediate one-on-one, whether it is in ahead of time or in some other form? Because besides the nearby Walmart, people for the purposes of fruit and vegetable, because of my location, would not be coming to me. But how do I make that a completely not, even though my market's on that list, I don't see a lot of people coming to ours because of that reason.
Yep.
Or even just the other opportunities of why they go to grocery stores otherwise.
Right, and that is a factor. It's truly a factor for folks who utilize SNAP benefits to make an extra stop at a farmer's market, to be unsure what might be available at the farmer's market. So all those things are considerations and valid, certainly. Individual farmers and farm stands can also become SNAP authorized and then have things like CSA boxes qualify as a SNAP purchase. That is a thing.
But you do have to have one location that's your address.
Yes.
You take the SNAP payment at. So if you're just yourself and you're a farmer and that's your house,
Yep.
then you can't take that machine with you to market somewhere else and use it in multiple places.
Yep.
The SNAP regulations is you're tied to one location.
Yep, and the only workaround with that, thanks for mentioning that, the only workaround with that is if you inform USDA that you are changing locations, addresses, or adding locations or addresses. So it's doable, but you just have to be authorized to do business in those locations.
Okay, so maybe to add to that, if I'm in a certain case willing to take the risk, can the address be the pickup drop-off point, even if that's not my farm, as long as the transaction occurs at that spot that the address that they have
Yep.
is, it can be some
Yeah, no, good question, thank you.
And I had never seen the numbers of total SNAP dollars used at farmers markets. And we were the very first farmers market double up. We only did double up 1 year. But last year, no double up. We were 20% of that total amount that you saw at our market, just because the double up created that much understanding of us taking SNAP. So even though we're not still double upping, we are taking in a huge amount of the total amount that's being used. So it really is good for markets, whether you continue the double up or not.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. Yeah, Stephanie, and then Ross.
I think I recently saw an ad that BisMarket is going to have an AmeriCorps SNAP Navigator.
Yes.
Is that something you're able to talk about, or should I ask Claire?
Sure, no, I'm happy to talk. Claire can chime in though. So Stephanie's question was, BisMarket, a farmer's market in Bismarck has recently put out information that they're going to have an AmeriCorps volunteer for this summer who will be working as a SNAP outreach food navigator person. So that was built in with the intention that having much like Claire's position, actual local foods coordinator, a dedicated person doing the work makes a significant impact. They've found that within the SNAP Ed world, so education piece that works with SNAP participants, they've found that having a dedicated person at those farmers markets, and maybe grocery stores too, but specifically farmers markets, to have a contact person for SNAP participants to come to the market, and not just a market manager who's dealing with vendor stuff, event stuff, customer stuff, other things, but to have a dedicated person answering questions. Lots of the times it's like a tour of the farmers market saying, this booth accepts SNAP, this one doesn't have any eligible items, talking through if there's a double up program, talking through, this is what qualifies, this is what you can use your double up on. And again, it's just creating connection, building relationship with, and working towards tapping into more of those SNAP participants in the Bismarck community, because, of course, those SNAP dollars, those transactions, we know that there's many more people in Burleigh County utilizing SNAP but the percentage of those dollars, the percentage of those folks using BisMarket is very low. So I don't know, Claire, do you have more on that? Okay, thanks. Ross?
What technical assistance do you have available for a group of, say, producers who are operating an online marketplace as opposed to a physical farmers market?
Yeah, so Ross's question was, what technical assistance or resources is available to a group of producers looking to get authorized to accept SNAP? And I would say that short of me and myself not knowing all the answers, we are definitely willing in pursuing that and interested in finding out those answers alongside you. And if it's making calls to USDA, I know that it gets very tricky with, you know, it's not direct sales, it's, you know, like this third party stuff. I don't have any answers. I still don't have any answers, and Amber is on my list to connect with. But it's a viable thing, and it's something that we're interested in pursuing because it could alleviate some of the things, even like in the farm to school world, like not necessarily SNAP, but like how to figure out that whole producer co-op thing and alleviating a lot of the issues that continually come up in lots of different areas. So, but I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well, is it still the, I think, sorry, you mentioned that last year the only retailers who were allowed to sell online
Yes.
that had EBT acceptance were what, Costco and Walmart?
Walmart and Amazon. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that is something that I will have to check on, because for some reason in my brain, I want to say that that's maybe changed, and that there's, and maybe Stephanie, you know.
I was thinking the same thing. I thought I saw something, but I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was.
But there is potential that online SNAP purchases can happen with other than Walmart and Amazon now. But I will follow up on that, because I know that across the nation there are, I just don't know specifically for North Dakota. And that would probably be a Department of Human Services like clarification. They administer the SNAP program for the state. I will follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.